is how we're going to open up some damn ECR Hub, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that was pretty sweet. Now let's just jump right into this. Is episode number 3, ECR Podcast. I'm your host, John Schweikart, and welcome to the podcast booth. We have co-host Luis Salmaso. We also have co-host Mike Kenner. We have 2 special guests tonight. We have Justin Bland, driver of the number 65 in your Cup Series, and we also have Tony DeGennaro, driver of the number 22 in the Cup Series. Welcome, special guest. Welcome, co-host. Let's have some fun tonight.
Oh, yeah!
Oh, yeah.
All right. So this week we went to Atlanta. We had a lot of damn fun. Something interesting that I really wanted to get out of the way early in this podcast was driver emotions. This isn't just a game or let me rephrase this. This is a simulation. A lot of us do this for fun. We have passion with racing. We're not just out here and our big fan is tennis or water polo or whatever, and then we just jump on iRacing and go, oh, this is great. No, we're passionate. We're fans. We love it. We're consumed by it. This is our hobby. And the same guys that you'll see out on like Friday or Saturday night at your local track, same guys you might be racing with, and you see a lot of emotion. They have a lot of money invested, a lot of time. Well, it's kind of no different than us on the sim racing community, except for maybe a little less dollars, depending on rigs and stuff like that. When you spend time working on setups and effort into leagues or open racing, your adrenaline gets rushed in these races. Your temperament can change, and in this league, I've noticed that 2 guys can have a disagreement one night. The next night they'll be racing door to door, give each other tons of room, and move on about it. I just love how you see driver emotion day in, day out, and how you can go from everybody having a good time to 2 guys just absolutely in total disagreement back to a week later. Hey, that's old news. They're racing hard again door to door and putting on one hell of a show. Luis, you've been in this league a long time. You've been racing a long time. What do you think about raw driver emotion? It is good for a league, not in a negative way, but just to actually see that everybody's human, but we actually care that much about what we do.
Yeah, it's especially in a league scenario, like you said, it makes things easier in one side that you are racing with the same group of guys every week. And it makes matter easier when you have a close contact with someone on the track, and all of a sudden you need to be racing with that guy that you just exchanged words, called that guy this and that and that. Less than 24 hours later, you need to be on the track with the same guy. And you cannot go into a race thinking, oh, if that dude comes close to me, I'm going to put him in the wall. That's not how it happens. That's not league racing. That's a lot more like you see in official racing, right? When you see guys that are mortal enemies. That guy cannot get close to me or we're going to have problems. That's not what we're all about. That's not what we see. And this is where you can grow as a driver, because more and more, the more that happens to you, you understand that, all right, I cannot go into another race thinking about this. So you become a lot more detached to the emotional side, which makes you a better driver, because once you're inside the zone, I'm not going to say inside the car, but inside that zone that you're really focusing on driving. Only what's right in front of you, nothing that is happening around, and the only thing that you're focusing about is how can I go faster and for longer and more consistent. You become a better driver. So it's one of those things that if you're racing with a very competitive, fast, consistent group of guys like we have here, everybody elevates their game once they understand that, and they become a little bit more mechanical into doing those things.
I totally agree with you. And I really just want to touch base on emotions, because we're 2 races in. I know that we have a lot of followers, amongst the ECR community, and some outside that just like to listen to us rambling, housewives or whatever you want to call us, just chatting around the old round table. But, it's a lot of fun. it's just, to me, it's one of them points where just because a guy might lose his temper, or you see two guys have a harsh disagreement, if they can put that aside the following week and go out and they're going to race next to each other. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've raced against somebody I've had a disagreement. It's like as soon as you have that disagreement, the very next week you're surrounded by them. You know what I mean? You're just there. But it's really cool to see when disagreements happen and then people just they work through it. I mean, I love seeing that. Because I mean, racing's not a bowl of peaches. So I love it. It just trying to put it in perspective of how much passion is involved in what we do here in iRacing. So let's go ahead and just jump right into Atlanta. That's what we're here for. Monday night, we had one hell of a fun time. We raced the Xfinity Series at Atlanta, provided by ARAN. Awesome job, guys. Nick Goliath, Jeremy Rubin up in the booth. It was a lot of fun. We saw a lot of good racing. There was not a whole lot of cautions. The runs that you had and the fun of just like moving around the track was an absolute blast. And we saw Chuck Harrell pull out a phenomenal victory. I'm telling you, this guy is a guy we're going to have to be watching all year. I know he was in this league last year. He's coming, man. I mean, Justin, you were around the top 5 all night. What do you think about that, with Chuck just coming up in there and stealing the win?
First, I mean, I'm really happy for Chuck. Ever since I got in the league, he's been one of the guys that's always been there. He's been here pretty much from the start. So, the last couple seasons, you definitely could see the progression, Chuck getting better and better. And it was just a matter of time until he finally put it away. And I think Atlanta fit his driving style. He's a hard driver. He's going to give everything he has, but at the same time, he's saving tires at the same time. So when it came to Atlanta, showed speed all night. I'm like, that's a guy to watch out for. It's a guy to watch out for. And there at the end, there he was. And he was able to make the pass and stay up front. And Chuck is definitely one of those guys that I think we're going to have to watch out for this year. He's one, sure. I think in almost every driver's case, it's that first win is the hardest to get to. But once you get that first win out of the way, that driver automatically becomes someone to watch out for.
What you said is radio gold right there, because AJ Scarborough pulled off Daytona. And I'm telling you, since that Daytona victory, I know we are week number 2 in the books in this league, but that man has grabbed that wheel a totally different way, and I have seen him just making moves, running up front, that top 2 or 3. 4 at the very least. I mean, he's just there. I mean, so now you got Chuck and AJ, 2 guys that, I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody in this league can win. Every single person. I do not doubt that. I mean, it's just the competition's so close. But you put those 2 guys that were here last year in an already won scenario, I mean, this is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
At Atlanta, we had a couple green flag pit stops. And with cars about 20 laps on their tires, they were really sliding around. It was absolutely insane. The 2-3 wide of cars on old tires versus just cars with fast tires. Tony, you were one of the fastest in practice in that race. What was it like for you, just when cars would come in and pit, and you're out there, because you were out there a little bit, and then all of a sudden here comes a guy with fresh tires who's 2 seconds faster, just zinging by. I mean, you had to really be watching that mirror.
Well, first off, I caught both of those pits just right. I literally was getting ready to call. I'm coming to pit. It was lap, 38, 39, 40, whatever. I was ready. And caution came out, and I made it. I went from 29th to 4th. Then everyone got the wave around. We got going, and the same thing happened at lap 80. But what I think happened is in this off season, I did a lot of road racing with the Corvette, and you have 2 different speed cars on the road course. And when you hit those straightaways, you're constantly looking in that mirror for that DP coming up on your ass. And it locked me into that mode. So I was consistently 45% of the time in that mirror, and the rest of the time out front. And I think it worked out pretty good. I didn't get in anybody's way. Everyone zoomed around me. Thank you very much. Here you go. Take the high, take the low, and I think we all worked together, all the slow cars to the fast cars, on that race Monday night.
Yeah, Monday night was just a lot of fun. You know, it fixed that weather. The temps were down, like track temps. It was 65 degrees. It's not track, but just atmosphere. It was 65 degrees, so it was cool. We got a lot of sun, and I mean, it was just, you could run 15, 20 laps, and you'd fall off 2 seconds. 30 laps was 3 seconds, but after a while, it started sliding around a little bit. It was just an absolute blast. I think, Chuck Harrell winning, everybody, every single driver that was out there was like, awesome, Chuck, congrats. I mean, you couldn't even talk on TeamSpeak because everybody was congratulating Chuck. I mean, that's just how special it is. Scott Hunsinger, new to the league, I've raced against him before. Kenner, I know you've raced against him before. And Tony, you've raced against him before in other leagues. That dude is bad fast. He's going to be a good asset to ECR.
Yeah, hell yeah.
The cleanest racer I've ever raced around, and when you see that number 7, you are not afraid to be behind or him be right behind you.
Yeah, so that was the old Xfinity. That was a good time. Let's go ahead and move on to Cup Series. Luis, all of us, really, any of us, we can talk about Cup Series all night. What a blast of a race that was. I don't think people understand how hard that was to drive.
No, they don't.
So you basically got this Cup car with a lot of horsepower, and the track temp was down just like Xfinity, but I mean, that's an old, rough, ragged surface, and it's fun. I hope they never, ever pave it. Your tires go out 3.5 seconds over 30 laps. If you stayed out longer than 30 laps, I mean, you were wheeling the hell out of it. Didn't matter who's set up, what set up, any of that. You were absolutely wheeling it. Some guys were middle of the track, some guys were on the bottom. Everybody was fighting for grip. There was a couple of brave souls up by the wall. But all in all, we had a few cautions, but that was an absolutely wild, fun race.
That was it. We had both an Xfinity and the truck race that we're going to talk a little bit later, but we had, as everybody knows, we have fixed setups. So the way that you can differentiate yourself is by the way that you drive. If you're more aggressive, a little bit less, you can save tires more just by the way you drive. Open setups is a whole different beast. And with those Gen 6 cars that are incredibly fast, and they put so much pressure on the tires when they're going through the turn, especially with a high banking track like Atlanta is. Once you go down those turns, both 1 and 2 and 3, 4, the tires, especially the outside, the right front, the right rear, it's amazing how you go from perfectly good conditions, a lot of grip, to almost 300 degrees on the tires, to in less than 15 laps, you're sliding everywhere. You cannot go straight. You need to be crunching that wheel left and right, just hoping to God that the car is going to stick. So having that different atmosphere, and we had a lot of guys driving all 3 races, gave that race a completely different scenario than the ones with the fixed setups. So we had guys starting in the back, even a lap down like Justin, for technical issues during the pre-race activities, that they made their way through the field just by being consistent, by knowing, taking what the car was giving, what the track was giving, and knowing that it doesn't matter what happens in the first 180 laps. If you were there with the right set of tires in the right circumstance, by the end of the race, you're going to have a shot. And that's what we saw. We saw a late caution with less than 10 laps to go. We saw cars pitting for 4 tires, for 2 tires, and we saw a bunch of guys staying out. And that changed completely the scenario of the race. So if you haven't seen what a late caution can do in a track where tires matter, go watch our broadcast from last Tuesday at Max Speed TV. Watch the last 10 laps just for you to see what happens. in a different strategies, different drivers, different ways of driving, you're going to have a blast. Those were probably the 10 best laps I've ever had in iRacing, driving around guys, going 3 wide without knowing what's going to happen, and all of a sudden you see a fourth guy coming out of nowhere. He was high, all of a sudden he cut it low, passing everybody with less than a turn to go. So it's insane. Really, it was insane. It was probably one of the best races I've ever been part of.
Yeah, it was absolutely fun. Justin Bland, you made that last wild fight to the end from fourth. You had some traffic to get through. Right now I kind of got up for our viewers can kind of see the last 5 laps. The fight with Luis, AJ, Anthony, and yourself was absolutely amazing. I mean, I was there in the front, and I'm thinking, if Bland gets by these guys real quick, I'm screwed because you pitted. And then I'm sitting there thinking, man, I got 2 Spartan two Spartan Racing guys that I run with are right behind me. How awesome would it be to bring home 1, 2, 3? And then I'm like, Anthony and Bland are not going to have that. I guarantee that. So, Bland, just quickly, man, let me know what you're thinking. We're here 4 laps to go for all the viewers. What are you thinking as you're catching these guys? We'll kind of do this play-by-play.
All right, so I think I had just passed George Munger, and at that moment I'm like, all right, I think I still have a little bit of car underneath me. I was afraid that I used too much tires trying to get around him and Nicole, but I think it was about 1 straightaway. Coming out of 2, I gained on all the second through fourth. I'm like, okay, we definitely have a car, and I'm sitting here, I'm trying to analyze how I can get around these guys, and I realized definitely 1 and 2, you could work the outside really well. So you'll notice through 1 and 2, I definitely start working the outside a lot until I can get around AJ. And coming into 3 and 4 in the last lap, I saw Anthony dive the corner in really deep. I'm like, all right, I can get underneath the 2 of them here, and if I can get at the stick, I'm thinking maybe I can get a third. I was not prepared for Anthony to hit the wall and slow down him and Luis. That way I was able to get underneath both of them, and the way I had to enter the tri-oval, I couldn't avoid the grass, so I got both of the left side tires on the grass, which knocked the car up in the air and kicked it sideways. So without a doubt, that was probably one of the coolest, if not the coolest finish I've ever had on iRacing, and I didn't even win the dang race. I felt like I won it. It was probably one of the coolest finishes I've ever been a part of, for sure.
Yeah, and this is where I give mad props to Rudy, because I've seen his races, and a lot of times, he'll go ahead and pan forward if there's not any action to the leader and watch the leader follow out. He kept it on this battle. I mean, he saw it brewing for multiple laps. Yep. We're right here. I've got this pause intentionally on the backstretch. You got Luis on the outside, AJ on the bottom. Or, no, I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Anthony on the bottom, passing him. You got you in the green car behind Luis with a run, and AJ thinking, how did I go from second to fifth in a few laps? So we're going to go ahead and just cruise on in here into turn 3. And this was absolutely amazing. I went back and watched it several times. Luis, what are you thinking right here as you're coming into 3 and this is just going on? I guess Luis is checked out. Well, Bland, you did a miraculous job in that race and finishing second with a wild slide. It was a lot of fun. I've noticed that you and Cottle have been working pretty hard this year, and you guys were fast at Daytona. You guys were fast in the off season. You were fast at Atlanta. What do you think is the key to your guys' success in finding speed right now?
Well, definitely last year we ended on a really good note. Through the first half of the year, I didn't have anybody that really rest on setups. We were pretty much using default with adjustments, and I really think that's really helped me, especially because I'm racing against guys that have full-blown setups that are literally kicking my butt, and however, I'm still able to come up with finishes. I'm able to stay qualified for the chase. About that time is when GBR reformed for the second. Just this season, I'm really excited for it. Everything's been working out really well. I don't know, me, John, the entire Slipstream Motorsports, and we have a couple of alliances that are working with us. We are putting out some great setups. We're putting great hours in every week, just picking out some good setups, some good work, and I'm really, really excited for what the season has in store.
Well, you guys just keep doing what you're doing. You guys are fast, and you guys are really clean. And it's been a lot of fun racing with you guys, even though it's just been 2 races. You know, we had a lot of fun at the end of last year and through the off season. And look forward to you and John Cottle making a huge statement throughout this season and heading in the chase. So a little early to be really worrying about points, but, you know, I mean, we'll all get there. It'll be a lot of fun. So we definitely appreciate your time for stepping on the hub tonight.
Oh, of course, I'm glad you guys had me. I've not done this in a while, so I love doing this. I love talking with y'all.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to the. I'll tell you what, I cannot talk tonight. I think I need another adult beverage.
Oh, there you go. That'll fix it.
Kenner, let me back up here before we just speed on through this. Kenner, you came to Atlanta. I guarantee you had a race-winning setup. If it's anything like what we saw last year at Michigan, how when tires were huge, and you just kind of sneak on past everybody and go, "Hey guys, look at me out front, just stinking up the show." You know, unfortunately, you got caught up in a wreck, turn 3 of lap 1, which does happen. I mean, how disheartening, and this is going to fall back on the emotions we talked about. How frustrating is that when something like that happens?
I mean, I went in there into practice, and usually I get home from work late, and I don't get a chance to practice all that much, and then I got to go pick my son up, or after work, and then I got to go pick my son up, you know, so I don't get that much. A lot of my practices with teammates outside of the league, but I went in and I did a bunch of practice, and I had a good car on the long run, especially as long as you took care of the tires, as long as you didn't heat them up, make them angry. I was good to go, and I know I could have went out and qualified, and you know I usually don't qualify that well. Qualified 11th, and yeah, unfortunately on the first lap it happened, and it does happen. I mean, we're all racing hard. The cars are a handful. That's the way it is. You know, it does happen, and went in there, got the damage fixed, and I was upset for a couple minutes, and you know. Well, I got to go out there and I got to finish. I got to get some points and look at the big picture, of course. But it is what it is. You know, you get upset for that second, whatever. But you know, people don't get into each other on purpose here. We race each other enough. We know that. So you got to think of that when something happens. You got to think of the fact that the car is a handful, you know, and then you got to think of the fact that on a restart for the first at least lap or two, we are crunched up together, 2 wide, the whole first through 40th. So it's disheartening. I mean, who wouldn't be upset and pissed off? You know what I mean? When it happens, this is our hobby. You said we're passionate about it. If you don't get upset, you wouldn't be passionate about it. But you know what? You take them emotions, you set them aside, and then you go out there and you try to get the best finish you can.
Well, dude, I got to give you huge props because as soon as that happened, the guy that ran in the back of you was just, you know, very apologetic, very, you know, heartfelt about it. And, you know, you're like, bro, it happens. It's part of racing, you know. And that's very respectable. I think for, like, people coming in this league, when they see or will hear stuff like that, they're like, damn, this truly is a tight-knit group, a family, you know. We keep going ECR fan, but he didn't just go, you know, off the chain at me, you know, and go ridiculous, but yeah, obviously admins would have something to say about that too, but just exactly, to be like, bro, it happens, we'll get you next week. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's pretty damn outstanding that you were able to do that, man. Show these guys by example how we handle things around here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Like I say, going in there, I knew my car was fast, and I gotta tell you this, that race was a big one because Raylan's birthday was the Friday before that, and since everything happened, of course, you John, I mean, you put her in victory lane after you tried twice, and then, you know, that Dover race, I don't know if a lot of people saw that. That was an emotional one. And, you know, this one was right up there. I mean, this was, you know, I wanted to, I said, I got a car. I had to put her in victory lane on her birthday, knowing, you know, that she's my biggest fan, and that happened. But, you know, like I said, I'll move on. I'll get her there before we're done.
Oh, hell yeah. There's only, 2 24 races before the chase.
Hell
I'm more than confident that 74 will be in victory lane.
And like I say, even though there's an R next to some of these guys' names, or even though you've raced some of these guys, you know damn well they didn't do it. We don't come out here and wreck each other on purpose. I know damn well there's guys that come in here, it might be their first race. They're not going in there and they're trying to wreck a guy on purpose. I always think of that right off the bat. As soon as I get wrecked, I think, okay, what might have happened? Is this car a handful? Did he, misjudge something? We all do it. We've all done it. So that's the first thing I think about when it happens. Yeah, you're pissed off and you're not on the mic, but you're swearing and you're cussing, but that's what I try to think about for the minute it happens.
Hell yeah, buddy. Well, we're going to move on to the old truck series where, again, it was fixed setup, cool weather, absolute blast. Trucks were just, it was like a pack format. We had a 20-minute clock. We saw, I don't think we saw the 20-minute clock, but we're damn close several times. Just, again, with Atlanta, you get into 20, 25 laps. It doesn't matter what you're driving. You can be driving a soapbox car around there. It gets just absolutely icy. And it was a lot of fun. We saw Ronnie Norman. I want to say it's no surprise to see Ronnie Norman in victory lane, but it's just because that dude is so good. And he's so humble about it. He's a hell of a racer, very fast, very consistent. He's a top contender for a truck championship. Now you got a lot of new guys coming in here that are very impressive, but if you're gonna beat somebody for a championship and make it even a huge success, you got to beat that 25 truck of Ronnie Norman. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Justin, he drives for you. Your take first.
Well, definitely last year, I remember when he first entered the league, that he was a truck to beat week in and week out. I've never seen someone dominate the truck series as well as he did. And I knew coming into this year, owning my own team, I'm like, all right, that's who I want on my team. I know he's somebody that's going to come out, and even if he didn't win, put up great finishes. And only his second start of the season, right in the victory lane. So nothing more I could have asked for out of him.
That was an awesome race, too.
I couldn't tell you much about the race. I wrecked out at like lap 20, but like you said, how committed we are to this league and how much of a lifestyle it is, that easily goes away when you have one of your own drivers able to come out with a win. So, like I said, Ronnie's one of the best drivers that we have in the truck series, and I'm really excited for what he can do this year, especially with the chase format. We're already locked into the chase as long as he stays up in the points, where you have a really good year to look forward in that aspect.
Yeah, and see that's something else too. Like last season coming into ECR, I ran for other people, and this year I'm like, you know what? I want to have my own team. I want to be an owner. So when AJ was in front of me at Daytona, I'm like, hell yeah! I'm rooting for AJ just as much as I am, myself. I'm like, man, I want to win, but this, and then it's just I get what you're saying because it is really cool when we all have to drive our own race, but it is cool when you have that like collaboration and the ECR money and the funds, how they've set this thing up. It changes that dynamic and makes it just even that much more fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. That's especially an owner, it gives you an entirely different aspect on the racing point of view. Like, one, you're really happy when you can have a good race, but you're even happier when your team as a whole has a collectively good race, and you can share that with not just yourself, but with others.
Or when they all show up and nobody's trucks get tore up.
There you go. That's the best part.
So, some key highlights was we got some guys that came in this league that have the old R, which does not stand for Republican, stands for rookie, but they're not rookies. Christopher Munger, he started in the back with me, and he drove a clean, smart race all the way up to second, fought his way up to second. That dude's fast. That dude's good. Kudos. You know what? This list, we've been talking about this since before Daytona, of so-called rookies, which they're not. They're just new to the ECR. This list is crazy. We got Chris Munger, Rob Haynes, Michael Guidry, Christopher Steele. These guys are coming in here, and they are just meshed so well in such short time. I cannot give enough props to the ECR admins for finding these people, bringing them in, making it mesh, not just make them mesh to us, but us mesh with them. Just everything just goes smooth as pie, and we're only in week 2, and these guys are just putting it down, and we're all looking like, I mean, just an absolute amazing league with very little flaws. You know, I even talked with Anthony earlier, and he said he could not be more proud of how this is going in such a short amount of time. He says every year he thinks this is going to be the best year ever. Well, he absolutely says so far this is the best year ever. And for instance, that truck, it's the kind of the bottom series of ECR. He was expecting so many more cautions than what we had that he was absolutely impressed, and he had such a good time up there in the broadcast booth. So, Kenner, I know you were watching. What did you think of that race, the truck race that is?
That was awesome. I mean, I watched some of the truck races, and not all the way through. I couldn't believe it. It was awesome. But I do want to say, we're only in week 2 here. We finished Daytona, and now we finished Atlanta. I'll take all 3 races, or all 3 series. At Daytona, look what we had in the Cup Series. We had drama at the end of that thing. If you're somebody watching the broadcast, that's what you want to see, right? I mean, really, nobody knew who the winner was. It was, I mean, Luis, you were up in the box calling the race, and you had, as a matter of fact, you had a guy that sat it out, had the fastest car, could have won it. He sat it out. The viewers, they knew that. Okay, then they saw that amazing finish. AJ Scarborough gets his first win in ECR. Then the Truck Series race, how that finished at Daytona. That was a last lap crash. Then you come to this week, and you got Ronnie Norman coming out of nowhere. You got Chuck Harrell coming out of nowhere on the last lap. You got a few cautions. You got people on old tires, new tires. If you're a guy outside watching them broadcasts, I'll tell you what, you're a fan of ECR right now. I guarantee it.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And Tony DeGennaro, you're a newcomer to this league, but I've raced around you for a long time. We've been friends for a while. What is your opinion coming into this league? Kind of just compared. Let's just start there. What's your opinion of this league? Kind of coming in compared to the other leagues that you've raced in.
Definitely, I say participation, information. The information is there. There's no guessing. The racing, everybody is putting in their time and their laps. Everybody is competitive. That race on Monday, that's my championship series, the Xfinity. So I had over 100 laps just in practice, plus 100 laps in the practice race. So did everybody else. So to run that, I've never run such a hard race to finish 12th. I mean, I raced my butt off, stretching out tires and trying to catch the pit strategy right and to get myself in the right position. You couldn't let up on even at 12th place. If you let up once, you're going to lose 7-8 spots. And this is last lap of the race. I mean, it was to finish 30-something cars on the lead lap with 38 starting. I've never been in a race that had that many cars left at the end running that fast. It was incredible. Never before.
Right. And, in the truck race, I was kind of talking with you a little bit during the race. You and Libby worked a lot in practice, trying to just figure out, what the truck does this line. What does it do if I enter here? What does it do if I back up? And, you guys were really working kind of methodically together. I know you guys are close friends. Well, during this race, I heard something from you, and I'm going to quote this. You said, "I have never drove so hard just to finish 20th." That, just hearing that, I was like, boom, I wrote that down. I was like, we need to talk about that because, we sit here and talk about the competition, but man, that statement right there, that's awesome.
I was involved in a wreck at, lap 20. It's a 90-lap race. I came in, I got all the damage fixed. It put me 1 lap down. So now I get back out on the track. There's 5 guys white in my relative. I'm like, crap, I got to pass 5 guys to get the lucky dog. Well, I think we went 15 laps in that cycle. Just as I'm passing the last guy in 15 laps, boom, caution comes out, I get the lucky dog. Now I'm back on the lead lap, and I was off pace enough where 20 laps of green, I was getting lapped. So I'm hoping for cautions before 20 laps just to stay on the lead lap. Now I think once I had to get the lucky dog again, but I mean I had to, like you said, work my butt off. I think I finished 19th in that truck race just to get that.
Well, hell yeah, Tony. Well, appreciate you, bud. You know what? You've come a long way, and man, we look forward to so much more racing from you. You're a fast guy, fast in practice. You're gonna be closing this deal out soon, and we'll be watching you in victory lane soon enough. So thank you, man, for stopping by. You know what? This has been a fun podcast. It goes by way too fast. Trucks are on a 3-week break at Martinsville. Next week is tentative. With the new build coming out, there's going to be a lot of variables. So right now, there's no sense in scheduling anything. We're gonna wing it unless we get information from the admins. Luis, Michael Kenner, thank you guys for co-hosting. Justin Bland, Tony DeGennaro, thank you guys so much for stopping by. This is your ECR Hub number 3 podcast, and we are out.